It was supposed to be a jokeem, standing in front of the entire drama club, pretending to be someone I wasn't. Except the joke's on me, because the only reason I signed up was him. And now, somehow, I'm about to confess words I never thought would leave my lips on stage. Under the spotlight, in front of an audience that has no idea they're not watching fiction. The first time I saw him was in the cafeteria. Of all places. I remember thinking he didn't belong there. Like someone had ripped him out of a magazine ad and dropped him right between the sticky tables and the constant hum of microwaves. His laugh carried above the noise, rich and unbothered, and I hated how easily it found me. He wasn't even looking at me, but I was already caught. His name was Ryan. Mine's Ethan. And if this were some kind of neat love story, that's all you'd need to know. But nothing about this has been neat. Nothing about this has been easy. See, Ryan is the kind of guy who walks into a room and everyone notices. He's not loud. Not the obnoxious center of attention type he doesn't need to be. He just exists. And somehow that's enough. Meanwhile, I've always been the kind of guy who can walk into the same room and leave it an hour later without anyone realizing I was ever there. So when the drama club put up flyers for auditions, it felt like a cruel joke from the universe. Ryan's name was already listed as one of the leads. Mine wasn't anywhere near the paper. But I signed up anyway. Not because I could act I can't. Or because I needed extracurriculars. My GPA is fine. But because for once in my life, I wanted to be in the same orbit as him. If that meant standing in the background with a fake sword or pretending to be Guy 3, fine. If it meant humiliating myself on stage, fine. At least I'd be close enough to memorize the shape of his laugh. What I didn't expect was that being close to him would hurt this much. The first rehearsal nearly killed me. Ryan stood center stage, reading lines with his voice low and confident, like he'd been born for it. And then he looked up, just once, and our eyes met across the dim auditorium. It was maybe a second, maybe half of one, but I swear my lungs forgot how to work. Ethan, right? He said later, like we'd already been friends for years. I almost said no, just so I could hear him say my name again. Rehearsals became my new oxygen. Every afternoon, I dragged myself into that old theater, pretending I was there for the art of it, but really it was for him. Ryan always carried a script tucked under his arm, its edges torn, the pages soft from overuse. He treated it like a Bible, like every word mattered. And empathetic, invisible me started to think maybe I mattered too. At least in the background of his story. The problem with background characters, though, is that they're not supposed to speak out of turn. And I kept wanting to. The play was some heavy-handed romance. The kind that made the theater kids swoon and the rest of us roll our eyes. Star-crossed lovers. Secret confessions. Stolen kisses. It was cliché as hell. Except it wasn't. Not for me. Not when I was watching Ryan recite lines about love and betrayal like he actually meant them. Not when my chest clenched every time he leaned just a little too close to his co-star. Madison, the girl cast opposite him. I hated how good they looked together. I hated how natural he seemed, whispering words into her hair. I hated how part of me wanted to be her, just for one scene, just for one line. So yeah. Joining the drama club wasn't my smartest decision. But then it happened. The director, this eccentric grad student with more scarves than common sense, decided the script needed fresh energy. Madison was out sick. Ryan was already on stage. And suddenly everyone was looking at me. Ethan, you've been quiet, the director said, smiling like she'd just discovered buried treasure. Why don't you read for her part today? The room laughed. Of course they did. I'd been the awkward guy hanging in the shadows. The one who tripped over stage props and muttered one-word answers when spoken to. Me. standing opposite Ryan as his romantic lead. It was hilarious. But Ryan didn't laugh. "Come on," he said, offering me the extra script. "It's just lines. No pressure." His hand brushed mine when I took the script. I didn't breathe for a full 3 seconds. And then I opened my mouth. And the world tilted. I wasn't good. Let's be clear about that. I stumbled. My voice cracked. And I skipped half a sentence. But Ryan looked at me like none of that mattered. He leaned into the words. Like we were speaking only to each other. Like the rest of the club had disappeared. At one point, the line called for me to say, "I never wanted anyone the way I want you." And for a split second, it didn't feel like acting. It felt like peeling open my chest and handing him the truth I'd been hiding for months. The director clapped like she'd just witnessed Shakespeare reborn. "Perfect. That's the energy we need. Ethan, congratulations, you're Madison's new understudy." Laughter again. Softer this time. I didn't care. All I could think about was Ryan's smile. The way it tugged at his mouth like he knew exactly what had just slipped out of me. That night, lying in bed, I replayed it over and over. The line. His eyes. The way my heart wouldn't shut up. I told myself it was nothing. Just theater. Just pretending. But deep down, I knew I'd crossed some invisible line. Because here's the thing, once you've said something out loud even in character it stops being just yours. And Ryan had heard me. Worse, he hadn't looked away. The next day, I walked into rehearsal half convinced Ryan would avoid me. Maybe he'd laugh about it with his friends. Call it a fluke. Chalk it up to the weird chaos of theater life. Maybe he'd pretend it never happened. Instead, he found me before I even sat down. "You were good yesterday," he said, tossing his bag onto the row of seats like it weighed nothing. I blinked at him. "Good." I tripped over my own tongue. "Yeah." He grinned. But it felt real. That's the whole point, right? Real beats perfect. Real. The word sat heavy between us. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. Like he could peel back my excuses with just one look. I wanted to tell him that nothing about me felt real. Not in this theater. Not with all these kids who lived and breathed scripts and costumes and standing ovations. But he believed it. And I couldn't stop the small, traitorous spark of hope that lit up inside me. From then on, I was the understudy. Which meant long afternoons reading Madison's lines. Waiting in the wings. And pretending it didn't wreck me every time Ryan looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Sometimes he'd forget a line and glance at me for help. Like I was his safety net. Sometimes he'd whisper a joke just loud enough for me to hear. His breath warm against my ear. And sometimes God help Mayhe'd linger after rehearsal. Asking if I wanted to grab a burger. Or walk across campus. Or just sit on the auditorium steps while the sun burned itself out. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Ryan was just nice. Ryan was just friendly. Ryan would have done the same for anyone. But then there were the moments that didn't feel like just. Like the time he borrowed my pen and returned it with a doodle of a little heart on the cap. Like the time his hand brushed mine when we passed each other on stage. And neither of us moved away right away. Like the time I caught him staring. Really staring. At me during a line that had nothing to do with my character at all. I started to think maybe just maybe I wasn't imagining it. Then came the kiss. Not a real one. Not at first. The director had decided our play needed more raw emotion. So she added an unscripted kiss between the leads. Madison was back by then. Rolling her eyes like kissing Ryan was just another line on her to-do list. I sat in the corner. Trying not to look. Trying not to feel my stomach twist into knots as he leaned in and pressed his mouth against hers. It was quick. Choreographed. Professional. And it destroyed me. I left rehearsal early that day, muttering something about a headache. Ryan called after me, but I didn't turn around. Couldn't. Because all I could think was, if he can kiss her like that and make it look real, then what chance do I have? The next few days, I avoided him. I skipped a rehearsal. Then another. My phone buzzed with texts say, "Where are you? You okay?" But I didn't answer. Coward. I told myself. You wanted to be close to him, and now you're running the second it gets hard. But it wasn't just hard. It was unbearable. The thing about wanting someone you can't have is that it eats you alive. Little by little, until even breathing feels like work. And I was so damn tired of pretending I was fine. It all came to a head on a Friday night. I was walking across campus, trying to disappear into the crowd spilling out of the football game, when I heard someone call my name. Ethan. I froze. Ryan was jogging toward me, his hair damp with sweat, his hoodie zipped halfway up. He looked like he'd been searching for me all day, and maybe he had. "Where have you been?" he asked, breathless. "Busy," I said, which was the lamest excuse in the history of excuses. Too busy to answer a text. Too busy to show up for rehearsal. You just vanished. His voice wasn't angry. It was worse than that. It was hurt. I looked away. "You don't need me there. You've got Madison." There was a pause. A long one. Long enough for me to regret opening my mouth at all. Then Ryan stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that I could smell the faint trace of soap on his skin. The warmth radiating off him like gravity itself was pulling me in. "Is that what this is about?" he asked quietly. "Her." I swallowed. My throat was dry, my pulse erratic. "It's none of your business." "Ethan." He said my name like it was a plea, like it mattered. "Look at me." I did. Couldn't not. And in that moment, standing in the middle of a crowded sidewalk with the world buzzing around us, I swore he could see everything. Every secret. Every thought I'd tried to bury. His eyes softened. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Really? Because it looks pretty clear from where I'm standing." "It's acting," he said. "It's just a play." "Funny," I whispered, "because it doesn't look like just a play when you're holding her." Ryan's jaw tightened. For a second, I thought he'd walk away. But then he said something I wasn't prepared for. "Do you want me to prove it?" We were in the empty theater 10 minutes later. Don't ask me how it was a blur. 1 second we were standing outside with the roar of the football crowd in the distance. And the next he was unlocking the side door of the auditorium, pulling me inside. The place was dark. Only the faint glow of the exit signs illuminating the rows of seats. My heart pounded in my chest so hard I thought it might echo. "Ryan," I started, but he shook his head. "No more excuses. No more running away." He grabbed 2 scripts from the stage and handed me one. "We're going to do the scene. The kiss scene. Only this time, it's not about her. It's about you. And me." I froze. He flipped to the right page. His voice steady even though his hands trembled. "If you really think what I did with Madison meant anything, then fine. But if you feel what I feel when I look at you, then let me prove it." My knees nearly gave out. We read the lines. My voice cracked, my breathing uneven, but I said them anyway, because the truth was already spilling out between the words. And then came the moment. The stage direction. They kiss. Ryan dropped his script. Took 1 step closer. Then another. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. And then his lips were on mine. It wasn't like the stage kiss with Madison. This was different. This was slow, tentative at first, like he was asking a question only I could answer. His mouth was warm, his hand tentative as it brushed against my cheek. And when I kissed him back, when I finally let go of the fear and kissed him back, it felt like the world had been holding its breath, waiting for this exact moment. It was messy and desperate and perfect. When we finally broke apart, gasping, he rested his forehead against mine. "Now do you believe me?" he whispered. Couldn't speak. I just nodded, because anything else would have broken me in half. The problem was, nothing stays simple for long. The next week, rumors started. Someone must have seen us leaving the theater late at night. Someone must have noticed the way Ryan's eyes kept finding mine across the room. The whispers spread fast, too fast. By Thursday, Madison cornered me backstage. "You think you can just swoop in and take my part? Take him." She spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You're nothing, Ethan. He's just playing with you." Her words cut deep, not because I believed them, but because part of me still feared they might be true. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But then I remembered his kiss. The way his hand had trembled. The way he'd looked at me like I was more than a background character. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself believe. I told myself I could handle it. The rumors, the whispers, Madison's glare across the stage, it was all just noise. But the truth, it was eating me alive. Every hallway felt heavier. Every laugh behind my back sharper. Every conversation cut off when I walked into a room. And he tried to pretend he didn't notice. But I could see it. The way his jaw clenched when someone muttered under their breath. The way his hands curled into fists when a joke went too far. One afternoon, after rehearsal, he caught me shoving my books into my backpack too quickly, like I couldn't get away fast enough. "Ethan." I froze. His voice was softer than usual, but there was an edge to it. "Look at me." I couldn't. "Ethan." He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "Don't shut me out. Not now." My throat tightened. "You don't get it." "Then make me get it," he pressed. "Because all I see is you pulling away, and I don't know if it's because of theme or because of me." That cracked something in me. I finally looked up, meeting those impossible blue eyes. "It's not you," I whispered. "It's everything else. I'm not like you, Ryan. You walk into a room and people love you. I walk in and my voice faltered. They already hate me, and now it's worse." He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just reached out and touched my hand barely, just enough for our fingers to brush. "Then let them," he said. "Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them say whatever they want. None of it changes what I feel when I'm with you." The words nearly knocked me over. The next rehearsal was brutal. The director wanted more intensity, more vulnerability, more everything. Madison leaned into every scene like she had something to prove, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness whenever she addressed Ryan, her gaze flicking toward me like she wanted me to know she was winning. At one point, the scene called for Ryan to cradle her face, whispering lines about eternal love. He did it with perfect precision, his hand steady, his voice steady. But his eyes, his eyes flickered toward me. Just for a second. Just long enough for my chest to ache. Afterward, Madison smirked at me in the wings. "Hope you enjoyed the show." I clenched my fists, but I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I hadn't enjoyed it at all. Later that night, Ryan found me outside, sitting on the back steps of the theater. My hoodie pulled tight around me like armor. "You can't let her get to you," he said, sitting beside me. "I'm not. I lied." He gave me a look that said he knew better. "She's threatened," he explained simply. "She knows what we have. Do we?" I cut him off, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Because some days it feels like we're just lines in a play, Ryan. Like I'm the understudy, and she's the real lead, and I'm just temporary." The silence that followed was unbearable. I regretted it instantly. But then he spoke, and his voice was steady in a way mine had never been. "You're not temporary, Ethan. You've never been temporary." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But belief is a fragile thing, and mine was cracking. The real breaking point came 2 weeks later. We were running a late rehearsal, the kind that drags long into the night. Everyone exhausted and irritable. Madison was off her game, fumbling lines, her frustration bubbling over until she snapped. "This is pointless," she shouted, tossing her script onto the stage floor. "How am I supposed to focus when she pointed at me, her eyes flashing with fury, is always hovering, always distracting him." The room went silent. Every head turned toward me. I felt my face burn, my throat close, my body lock in place. Ryan stepped forward immediately. "Madison, enough." "No," she spat. "I'm sick of this. Sick of watching you two play your little games while I'm standing here looking like an idiot. Do you think people don't notice? Do you think they don't talk?" "Madison," the director warned, but she ignored her. "You're making a fool of yourself, Ryan," she sneered. "And him. He's just using you to feel important." That was it. Ryan's voice was ice when he spoke. "Don't talk about him like that." The air crackled. Nobody moved. And for the first time, I realized just how much he meant it. After rehearsal, he found me again. "Come with me," he said. No explanation, no hesitation. We ended up at his dorm, the one I'd never stepped inside before. His room was messy clothes on the floor, posters peeling off the wall, a stack of scripts on his desk. But it felt warm, lived in. I hovered near the door, unsure. "Sit," he said gently, pointing to the bed. I did. My heart was a drumbeat I couldn't slow. He sat across from me, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. "Ethan," he began, "I don't care what they say. I don't care about Madison, or the rumors, or the whispers in the hallways. None of it matters. Ryan, no, listen." His voice broke slightly, but he kept going. "What matters is that when I'm with you, it feels like the only real thing in my life. Do you get that? Do you understand how insane it drives me, knowing you don't see what I see?" My chest tightened. "And what do you see?" He didn't hesitate. "You. Just you. The guy who doesn't think he belongs. Who doesn't realize he's the only one I want. The only one I've wanted since the day you walked into this theater with your stupid nervous smile." Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. All I could do was sit there as the truth cracked open between us. And then he kissed me again. This time, it wasn't tentative. It wasn't careful. It was raw, desperate, like he'd been holding it back for too long. His hands tangled in my hoodie, pulling me closer, and I melted into him, every wall I'd built crumbling. It wasn't acting. It wasn't rehearsal. It was us. And for the first time, I let myself believe maybe we could survive this. Of course, nothing worth having comes without a cost. The next day, The director pulled me aside. "I've been hearing things," she said carefully, her scarf draped dramatically around her neck. "About you and Ryan." My stomach dropped. "What kind of things?" She sighed. "Ethan, I don't care who you spend your time with. But theater thrives on focus. And right now, this whatever it ISIS distracting the entire cast." My voice cracked. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," she said, surprising me. "Be honest with yourself. And with him. Because if this is real, you can't keep hiding. And if it's not," she trailed off, her gaze softening, "then you need to figure that out before someone gets hurt." Her words haunted me the rest of the day. Because the truth was, I didn't know if I was brave enough to be honest. That night, Ryan and I sat in the empty auditorium again. Scripts abandoned on the stage. What if they're right? I asked quietly. Who? Everyone. Madison. The director. The whole damn school. What if we're just making a mess? He leaned back, studying me. Do you really believe that? I didn't answer. He stood, walked over, and held out his hand. Then prove it's real. Right here. Right now. No audience. No script. Just us. I stared at his hand, my heart pounding. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to hide anymore. I took his hand. And everything changed. The thing about secrets is they don't stay secrets for long. Especially not on a college campus, where gossip spreads faster than wildfire. By the following Monday, we weren't just whispers anymore. We were rumors with teeth. I overheard two guys in the library snickering about mesomething about the theater freak hooking up with golden boy Ryan. In the dining hall, people's eyes followed us like we were the newest show on Netflix. And worst of all, Madison had a fresh gleam of satisfaction every time she caught my eye, like she'd won something by tearing me down. I wanted to disappear. Ryan wanted to fight. They don't matter, he said, slamming his tray down next to mine in the cafeteria. Let them choke on their jealousy. Easy for you to say, I muttered. You're the one they worship. I'm the one they laugh at. He leaned across the table, his voice sharp. You think I don't hear it? You think it doesn't kill me to listen to them run their mouths about you? I froze. His eyes burned, not with anger at me, but with something rawer, protective. Ethan, he said, softer now. I don't care what they think. Care about you. Just you. And for a fleeting second, I believed him, but the pressure only grew. One night after rehearsal, Madison cornered me again. Her smile was syrupy sweet, but her words were poison. Enjoy it while it lasts, she murmured, brushing past me. Boys like Ryan don't stay with shadows. I should have ignored her. I should have let it roll off. But her words echoed all the way home, burrowing into my chest, planting seeds of doubt that sprouted in the dark. What if she was right? What if I was just a phase, a distraction, an understudy he'd eventually outgrow? I hated myself for even thinking it. But late at night, when the campus was quiet and my phone screen stayed dark, those thoughts were louder than anything Ryan had ever said. The final dress rehearsal was a week away when everything almost fell apart. We'd stayed late again, running lines. The director was pushing us hard, determined to squeeze every drop of emotion from the performance. Ryan was flawless. Of course. I was not. I kept missing cues, fumbling lines, forgetting to move where I was supposed to. Ethan, the director snapped, rubbing her temples. What's going on with you tonight? Sorry. I mumbled. Ryan stepped in instantly. He's just tired. We've all been. No. She cut him off. This isn't about tired. This is about focus. And right now, Ethan doesn't have it. The silence after that was brutal. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Maybe you're right, I said quietly. Maybe I shouldn't be here. I dropped the script and walked out before anyone could stop me. I didn't get far. Ryan caught up with me on the steps outside the theater, grabbing my arm. What the hell was that? Reality check, I muttered. He frowned. No. That was you running away. Again. Maybe I should. I snapped. Maybe this was all a mistake. I don't belong here, Ryan. I never did. His grip loosened, his expression softening. Is that what you think? That I don't want you here? I couldn't answer. He stepped closer, his voice breaking. You think I don't need you, Ethan? Because I do. More than you know. I looked at him then, really looked at him, and for the first time I saw it cracks in his perfect facade. He wasn't untouchable. He wasn't invincible. He was scared too. And somehow, that terrified me even more. That weekend, we didn't talk. Not really. A couple of short texts. Nothing more. It felt like standing on a cliff edge, waiting to see if we'd fall or fly. By Sunday night, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked to his dorm, rehearsing a dozen different speeches in my head. None of them right. When he opened the door, I froze. He looked exhausted, eyes red, hair a mess, hoodie wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Ethan, he breathed, like my name itself was a relief. I almost lost my nerve, almost turned and left. But then he reached for me, pulling me inside before I could change my mind. I thought you were done with me, he admitted quietly, once the door was closed. Never, I whispered. I don't know how to do this, Ryan. I don't know how to be brave like you. He shook his head. You think I'm brave? I'm terrified. Every day. But then I look at you, and it's the only thing that feels worth it. The words hit me like a tidal wave. And before I could stop myself, I kissed him hard, desperate, like it was the only language I had left. When we pulled apart, breathless, he smiled through the mess of it all. Then don't walk away again, he whispered. And I promised him I wouldn't. The final week was chaos. Costumes were falling apart, props missing, lines forgotten. Everyone was on edge, tempers flaring left and right. Madison barely looked at me, which was a blessing I didn't question. But every time I stepped on stage, every time Ryan's eyes found mine, the rest of it faded. It wasn't about the rumors, or the director, or even the play anymore. It was about us. About the way he steadied me when my voice shook. The way his hand brushed mine just off stage. The way he made me feel like I wasn't pretending anymore. Still, doubt lingered like a shadow. On the night of the dress rehearsal, right before curtain, I caught my reflection in the dressing room mirror. I didn't look like a lead. I didn't look like someone worth risking anything for. I looked like the same scared kid who joined this club just to orbit Ryan from a safe distance. And for a moment, I almost believed that's all I'd ever be. The rehearsal was a blur. I stumbled through my lines, forcing the words out like they were heavy in my mouth. Ryan carried the scenes. As always, his voice steady, his presence commanding. But then came the scene. The confession. The one that had started it all. I stood across from him, script abandoned, my heart pounding. I never wanted anyone the way I want you, I said, the line shaking out of me. And for the first time, it wasn't just acting. It wasn't just practice. It was the truth, bare and raw, spilling out of me in front of the entire cast. The room went silent. Ryan didn't miss a beat. He crossed the stage, closing the space between us. His eyes locked on mine like nothing else existed. And when he delivered his line, it wasn't just theater. "I want you to." The world tilted. The director clapped. The cast whispered. But I barely heard any of it. Because in that moment, under the harsh rehearsal lights, Ryan and I weren't characters anymore. We were us. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Afterward, when the theater finally emptied and the echoes faded, Ryan and I sat alone on the stage. "You know," he said, lying back against the wooden boards, "you're not the only one who feels like he doesn't belong." I glanced at him. "Yeah, right. You're the star. Everyone loves you." He shook his head. "Everyone sees what I let them see. But you see me." I swallowed hard. "And what do you see?" He turned his head, his smile soft, tired, real. "Everything I've been looking for." I didn't know what to say, so I lay down beside him, shoulder to shoulder, staring up at the empty rafters above us. And for the first time in weeks, the silence felt safe. Still, the real test hadn't come yet. Because tomorrow was opening night. And tomorrow, the entire audience would be watching. Not just a rehearsal. Not just a secret kiss in the dark. Tomorrow, I would have to stand on stage, look Ryan in the eye, and confess my heart in front of everyone. And I had no idea if I was ready. Opening night felt like a storm. The theater was buzzing, the lobby packed with families, professors, and students clutching programs like tickets to the apocalypse. The smell of fresh paint and nervous sweat hung heavy backstage. Costumes rustled, makeup smeared. The director whispered frantic instructions like prayers into the dark. And me, I was standing in the wings, trying not to hyperventilate. Ryan was across the stage, joking with one of the crew, his smile easy and bright like he didn't have an entire audience waiting to judge him. He was calm, effortless. Everything I wasn't. I tugged at the collar of my costume, my hands clammy, my stomach twisted with every muffled laugh from the audience, every shuffle of programs, every cough. What if I mess up? I muttered under my breath. Ryan appeared beside me so suddenly I jumped. "You won't," he said, his voice quiet enough for me alone. "You don't know that." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "Yes, I do." Something in his tone, steady and sure, anchored me. For a second, the panic eased. Then the lights dimmed, and there was no turning back. The first act blurred by. My lines tumbled out. Not perfect, but enough. The audience laughed when they were supposed to, hushed when the tension built. But every time Ryan stepped on stage, he owned it. His voice, his movements, his presence seat was magnetic. And it terrified me, because the closer we got to the scene, the harder it was to breathe. Finally, the curtain rose on the moment I'd been dreading. The confession. My legs felt like lead as I stepped into the spotlight, the heat of it burning against my skin. My eyes found Ryan across the stage, waiting, his script abandoned because he didn't need it. He never did. The silence stretched. My heart pounded. And then I spoke. "I never wanted anyone the way I want you." The words cracked on the way out, but they were real. Too real. They weren't just lines anymore. They were my truth, my secret, laid bare in front of 100 strangers who had no idea they were witnessing something unscripted. The audience leaned in. Ryan moved closer, his expression unreadable. But his eyes, God, his eyes burned into me. "I want you too," he said, his voice steady. The theater went still, the kind of stillness that hums with electricity. And then it happened. The kiss. It wasn't staged. It wasn't blocked. It wasn't even written in the script. Ryan closed the distance, his hand cupping my face, his lips pressing against mine in front of everyone. The audience gasped, a ripple of shock breaking the silence. My knees nearly gave out. I kissed him back anyway. For a second, the world fell away. No rumors. No whispers. No Madison. Just us, tangled in the rawest, truest moment of my life. When we broke apart, the theater erupted, some applause, some shocked murmurs, but all of it loud. The director's face in the wings was a mix of fury and awe. Madison's expression was unreadable. But Ryan didn't care. He just grinned at me, breathless, like we'd just set the world on fire. And maybe we had. Backstage after curtain, chaos exploded. What the hell was that? The director hissed, storming toward us. "I improvised," Ryan said coolly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Improvised. She practically choked. That wasn't improvisation. That was a scandal. Do you realize the board was in the audience tonight? Professors. Donors. They loved it. Ryan interrupted, unbothered. You saw the reaction. The director sputtered, torn between outrage and reluctant admiration. Meanwhile, I stood frozen, my pulse still racing from the kiss. Ryan caught my hand and squeezed it, subtle, hidden between us. And just like that, I could breathe again. But not everyone was clapping. The after-party buzzed with excitement, but the undercurrent was sharp. I caught snippets of conversation. Did you see that? Was that part of the play? Do you think they're actually? I slipped outside to escape the noise, the night air cool against my flushed skin. Ryan followed. As always. You okay? He asked, leaning against the wall beside me. I laughed bitterly. Define okay. He studied me, his gaze softer than I deserved. You're scared. Of course I'm scared. Everyone saw us. Everyone knows now. And he tilted his head. Is that really so bad? Yes. I snapped, then winced. I mean, I don't know. This was supposed to be mine. Ryan. Just mine. And now it feels like it belongs to everyone else. He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out, brushing his fingers against mine. It's still yours, he said. Ours. No one can take that away, no matter how many people saw it. I wanted to believe him, but in the pit of my stomach, fear lingered. The days after opening night were brutal. Social media lit up with photos, blurry videos, endless commentary. Some people called it brave. Others called it disgusting. I couldn't walk across campus without feeling eyes on me, whispers trailing in my wake. And Ryan. He walked beside me like none of it mattered. He held his head high, smiled easily, laughed with friends, even held my hand once, briefly, when we thought no one was looking. But someone was always looking. By the end of the week, I cracked. This isn't working, I told him, my voice breaking. I can't live like this, Ryan. I can't breathe with all of them watching. He stared at me, stunned. So what? You want to pretend nothing happened? You want to go back to hiding? Maybe, I whispered, hating myself for it. Maybe it would be easier. The hurt in his eyes nearly killed me. Easier doesn't mean better, he said. And it sure as hell doesn't mean happier. I don't know how to be happy when everyone hates me. Then let me show you, he pleaded. Let me be enough. I turned away, tears burning my eyes. What if you're not? The silence that followed was deafening. We didn't talk for 2 days. The second act of the play went on autopilot. Lines delivered, scenes played, curtain calls made. To the audience, nothing had changed. But backstage, everything had. Ryan barely looked at me. I barely breathed when he was near. The space between us stretched wider with every rehearsal, every performance, until it felt like an ocean. And then Madison struck. She cornered me after Friday's show, her voice dripping with false sympathy. See, I told you. He's already pulling away. You were just a phase, Ethan. A distraction. He'll come back to me eventually. They always do. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to believe she was lying. But the seed of doubt had already been planted, and it was blooming fast. By Sunday, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Ryan alone in the green room, sitting with his script open but unread. He looked up when I entered, his face unreadable. We need to talk, I said. He nodded. Yeah, we do. The air between us was thick with everything unspoken. I swallowed hard. I don't know if I can do this. Not with the rumors, the pressure, the... Stop. His voice was sharp, but his hands trembled as he set the script down. Just stop. Do you even hear yourself? You're so scared of being hurt that you're tearing us apart before anyone else can. I'm trying to protect us. No, he snapped. You're trying to protect yourself. And in the process, you're breaking me. The words hit like a punch. Couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Ryan stood, his eyes shining with something I couldn't name. I love you, Ethan. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But I do. And if you can't believe that, if you can't believe Methan, maybe you're right. Maybe this was a mistake. And then he walked out, leaving me alone with the echo of his confession. I sat there for hours, replaying his words. I love you. It should have been everything I wanted. Everything I dreamed of. So why did it feel like it was slipping through my fingers? Because I was still terrified. Terrified of being seen. Terrified of being hurt. Terrified of not being enough. But somewhere beneath the fear, another truth pulsed. I loved him too. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth the risk. The night of the final performance arrived like the last page of a book you weren't ready to finish. Campus was buzzing again. The small theater packed tighter than ever. Some had come for the art. Most had come for the spectacle, the kiss, the rumors, the drama that had spilled out of the play and into real life. Backstage, my nerves were raw. I hadn't spoken to Ryan in days. Not since he'd told me he loved me and I'd let silence be my answer. The space between us was a wound, unhealed and gaping. He was across the room now, in costume, his jaw tight, his smile gone. When our eyes met, he looked away first. And still, I couldn't stop looking at him. The first act passed in a haze. My lines were steady, my cues sharp, but inside I was splintering. Every time I stepped on stage with Ryan, the unspoken words pressed against my throat like glass. When the curtain fell on Act I stumbled off stage, my heart hammering. Madison smirked as she passed me, whispering, "This is your last chance to prove you're more than a mistake." Her words sliced, but this time, they didn't take root. Because she was wrong. The mistake wasn't loving Ryan, it was being too afraid to show it. By the time Act 2 began, something in me had shifted. I watched Ryan deliver his lines with effortless grace, his voice rich and steady, and I knew, if I lost him tonight, it would be because I never fought for him, because I let fear decide for me. And I was done with that. The moment came near the end of the act. The scene that had always terrified meth confession. The spotlight found me, heat blazing on my skin. My chest rose and fell, breath ragged. Across the stage, Ryan waited. His lines sat ready on his tongue. But his eyes, God, his eyes were guarded, locked behind walls I had built. The silence stretched, heavy. The audience leaned forward, waiting. And then I broke the script. I don't care what anyone thinks, I said, my voice trembling but true. I don't care if they laugh or whisper or hate me. I love you. Gasps rippled through the audience. Ryan froze, his script useless in his hands. His eyes widened, shock flashing into something else, something raw and uncontainable. I stepped closer, words tumbling out faster now. Unstoppable. I was so scared of being seen that I almost lost you. But I don't want to hide anymore. Not from them. Not from you. Not from myself. I love you, Ryan. I love you, and I'm done pretending I don't. The theater held its breath. And then Ryan dropped the script. Literally let it fall to the floor, the pages scattering like confetti. He crossed the stage in 3 strides, his hand finding mine, his eyes blazing. I love you too, he said. No hesitation, no fear. The audience erupted. But I didn't hear them. Because Ryan kissed me again, right there under the lights. And this time I kissed him back with everything I had. Not as a line, not as a role, but as the truth. The rest of the play didn't matter. We improvised. We stumbled. We laughed. And the audience went with us. By curtain call, the applause shook the walls. We bowed side by side, his hand brushing mine, our secret no longer secret at all. For the first time in weeks, I felt light. After the show, the theater buzzed with chaos. Professors, students, even strangers swarmed us, offering praise, questions, and congratulations. Some clapped our backs. Others whispered about bravery and controversy. But none of it mattered. Because when the crowd thinned and the noise dimmed, it was just us in the green room, the air finally still. Ryan leaned against the wall, exhausted, his hair damp with sweat. He looked at me, and for the first time in days, he smiled, not the practiced grin he gave everyone else, but the soft, crooked smile that was mine. You really did that, he said. I had to, I whispered. Why? Because losing you scared me more than anything else. His smile widened, his eyes shining. Took you long enough. I laughed, the sound breaking through the tension like sunlight. Then I stepped closer, my forehead resting against his. No more hiding, I promised. No more hiding, he echoed. And then we kissed again, softer this time, unhurried, like the world wasn't ending outside those walls. Like the world was just beginning. The days after were still messy. Whispers followed us. Some people celebrated us. Others sneered. Social media buzzed. But through it all, Ryan held my hand. And for the first time, I let him. We walked across campus together, heads high, laughter spilling easy. We studied lines for the next show, sprawled across the same couch, his feet tangled with mine. We kissed in the library when we thought no one was looking and didn't flinch when someone was. It wasn't always easy, but it was ours. And that was enough. Months later, the theater was empty again. We sat in the front row, scripts for the next play in our laps. The stage lights dimmed to a soft glow. This place feels different now, I said, staring up at the stage. Yeah, Ryan agreed. Feels like ours. I glanced at him, at the boy who had once been untouchable, unreachable, impossibly perfect. And now he was here, beside me, fingers laced with mine. You know, I teased. I only joined drama club to be near you. He smirked. I know. And now I'm stuck with you. Forever, if you're lucky. I smiled, my chest full. I am lucky. Ryan leaned in, pressing his lips to mine in the quiet theater. No audience, no script, no stage, just us. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just a play. This was our story. And it was only beginning. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.